Hey everybody, today I'm going to continue doing my quick reviews, and today I'm talking about party games. So I'm going to be talking about 10 games in a bit less detail than I normally would, but nonetheless, hopefully you get an idea about what these games are about. So the first party game I'm going to be talking about is Medium. Now Medium is it's a word-based game, as you are working in, I suppose you're working in pairs at all times, and you are basically going to draw a card each, or use a card each from a hand of cards, which shows certain words. You're going to play them next to each other, and then you're going to try and find a link in between those words. So on the count of 3, you're going to come up with a word, and then if you don't come up with the same word, you're going to do the same activity again, but with the 2 new words that you've just selected. And if you don't come up with a word from that, you use the words that you've used from those 2 answers and go again. And after the 3rd attempt, you bust, you don't get another go. But I like the way this one rewards, if you get it right for the first time, then you get more points, and if you get it right on the 3rd opportunity, then you get fewer points. But I like the way the game flows in terms of you working with your neighbours, because it'll be, me and this player, and then that player and the next person, and then that person and this person, and then that person and me. So you're always working with your neighbours, but it's still competitive, and your overall score is going to be both of your points added up. And in bigger groups as well, you can play in different ways by playing with a person opposite the side of the table from you to try and negate that downtime. An ultra simple game that I thought was I was surprised that this game hadn't been out there before, because that core concept is so simple. Probably one of the easiest games you could ever explain. The game does come with different categories of words as well, so they're not completely out of the left field in terms of not being related to each other. You have kind of different categories of cards you put together to make a bit more of a controlled deck. But yeah, it's so simple, but I think ultimately for me the novelty ran off quite quickly, and I found that the game took a bit longer than I would have liked it to, because you actually play through this whole deck of cards until you draw 3 of these crystal balls, and that will trigger the end of the game. But it seemed to drag on a little bit too long. I think if it was maybe a bit shorter than that, or maybe a set amount of rounds, of course you could do that yourself, then it would have been a little bit better. But while I enjoyed it for the first few games, I thought eventually, I got no need to go back to this one. There are better party games out there for me, but still a solid one, and I think a lot of people can enjoy it because of that low rules overhead. Next up, I have Cash and Guns. This one's a popular game based, I suppose, on Reservoir Dogs, really, as everybody has this foam gun, and you are laying an amount of loot in the middle of the table, and everybody's got a deck of cards, or a set of cards, but really, with a number of blank bullets in them, or blanks in them, and a number of bullets in them. And then after everybody's kind of made their mind up, on the count of 3, everybody's going to point their gun at somebody, and they're either going to be kind of calling their bluff and, not have a loaded gun or have a loaded gun. And then everybody is going to either choose to stay in and, call the people's bluff who are pointing a gun at them, or they are going to drop out because they don't want to get shot. Because if you get shot a certain amount of times, then you're going to be eliminated from the game. And that's basically it. And everybody who's left in is going to take their pick of the loot in the middle. Nice game, a lot of fun. It's some real laugh out loud moments. It does have player elimination, which can be not the best thing, especially if you're eliminated early and just get completely powdered by bullets. But that's part of the fun. It doesn't take very long. And I think that core concept of that, pushing your luck, holding your nerve, that Russian roulette style thing does come through really well. A strong party game I think it stood the test of time. People are still playing it today, and it's been out quite a while now. And I would like to play it more. I've only played it a few times, but it's a strong party game. Not my favourite, but certainly one that I would happily play again. Next up, I have a mass market game with Dixit. Dixit is a weird and wonderful game, as you are basically choosing, or everybody's got a bunch of cards with this weird and wonderful artwork on it, really out there ideas and concepts. And somebody each round is going to pick a certain word or a certain phrase or a sound, and everybody is going to pick a card using that same clue and put it into a pile, mix them up, lay them out on the table. Then everybody is going to vote on who they think the original clue related to. Then, depending on how people vote, you're going to get people voting for different things and get points in different ways. And you always want to have not somebody vote for you, but not everybody vote for you, because if everybody votes for you, then you are not going to get any points. So you want to be vague enough that not everybody gets it, but accurate enough that at least somebody gets it. So it's a really simple game, one that I think is going to kind of prick the interest of people who haven't played these kind of games, because it's so different to the average style game that people are used to playing. It has some real creativity that can go into it. One of those probably best examples of just sit back and relax and just enjoy the process game. You don't really care about the scoring. It's just a fun activity, beautiful artwork to look at, and just sit back and enjoy. This one, I always sit on the brink of having my shield of quality or not. I think it probably does just get it, because it's so elegant, and it's just a game that you can play with loads of players at once, not having to worry about anything, and it just plays itself, and you can just sit back and enjoy it. That is Dixit. Next up, I have one of my favourite party games of all time, if not my favourite party game. This one definitely gets my shield of quality. This is Telestrations. Telestrations actually made my top 50 board games of all time, but just sneaking in there, I think. This one is basically Chinese whispers, but or telephone, I think, if you're overseas, where you are basically drawing a certain idea onto these dry erase boards, and then passing them on to your next person, and they're writing what you think you drew, and then they're passing on to the next person, and then they're drawing what you wrote, and so on. And as it's going from player to player, the interpretation of the drawing and the concept is getting watered down and transforming from one thing to another. And it can create some extremely funny moments, just laugh out loud moments as as your initial concept is completely misinterpreted. A bit like Dixit, one of these games you just don't care about the scoring. It's just a fun activity, and if you play this with the right group, it can be just laugh out loud funny. I would highly recommend not using the cards in the game and coming up with your own ideas, and you've got to be as particular as you can, because the more vague you are, the easier it is to for someone to get it. So if you're very particular with your ideas, then there's more room for people to get it wrong. And another great thing about this game that you don't have to be good at drawing to enjoy it. In fact, the game is much better if you are all really rubbish at drawing, because it just, again, it muddies those waters a bit and makes it goes off the rails a bit easier. Brilliant game, one that I'd always bring out in parties. Had some of the best kinds of gaming I've ever had with Telestrations. Just absolutely amazing party game. Next up, I have One Night Ultimate Werewolf. Now, this is one of the most played games I've ever played in terms of quantity. This one is a social deduction game, as you are trying to wean out who the werewolves are by using certain powers. This one has a wonderful app implementation, as it goes through the soundtrack explaining what all the different roles do. For example, you've got like the seer who can look at other players' cards, or you can have the troublemaker who switches the tiles round so you don't know which roles are currently in position. Really fun. Probably one of the best examples of a social deduction game. Only takes about 5 or 10 minutes to play. Has a good amount of variability. All the roles link with each other in interesting ways. And I think, I'm probably not the best person to say how I think about this now, because I've played it probably more than 50 or 60 times. I'm starting to kind of, be done with it, but know how many other games stand up to that many plays and still be enjoyable. Werewolf did that, so for that I have to give it praise. Had a really good times with this one over the years. Again, it plays quickly. It has that addictive factor where you just want to say, let's play one more game, because they are so quick and snappy. The roles are fun. The pressure that comes with a lot of these social deduction games isn't so strong in this one, because those games are so quick. So that is One Night Ultimate Werewolf, certainly a really strong social deduction game. Next up, I have Spyfall. Now, Spyfall, you want to talk about pressure. This is probably one of the most under pressure games out there. So this one is another kind of hidden role game where one person is the spy, and that spy is trying to work out the location of what all the other players know. Because at the beginning of the round, everybody is given a card showing a certain location. It could be like a space station or an airport or something like that. And one of those players doesn't know that information, but is the spy. And then how the game is going to play out is, over a certain amount of time, you are going to keep asking questions to one another, maybe saying, what are the people wearing here? What was the architecture like? Did I have to pay to get in here? And you are trying to work out who knows the truth and who doesn't know the truth. But the spy is obviously listening in at all times and trying to work out where that location could be. And the funny thing is that when that spy is asked a question, and they just do not know the answer, and you've got to completely wing it and just feign confidence and say, yeah, you did have to pay to get in here. And so when that doesn't come, when it pays off, it's great. But when you get caught red-handed, it just causes laugh out loud moments. Just really fun. But as I said, if you don't like that pressure of being put on the spot, then Spyfall probably isn't for you. But still, over the time, I've had a lot of fun playing this one, and it's certainly, I can certainly see the appeal of it, and would happily play it any time. That is Spyfall. Next up, I have Insider. Now, Insider is probably one of the most simple and elegant party games out there. It's basically a spin on 20 questions, as somebody is going to be kind of the master, and they are going to know a certain word, and then everybody is going to ask questions of that master, and they are going to say yes or no, depending on what that question is, trying to work out what that word is. But the trick is that one of these players who isn't the master knows the word, and they are trying to guide the other players to what that word could be without breaking their cover, because some of these words are extremely difficult to get. And if you end up going off track, the insider is trying to keep you on track and make you, guide you towards that word. But at the end of the round, if you haven't guessed the word, then everyone's going to lose. But if you have guessed the word, then the master is going to get an opportunity to guess who the insider is. And if they guess who the insider is, then the players are still going to lose. So you've got to be, if you're the insider, you've got that pressure of not being too obvious again, but just slightly guiding your team back onto track. And it works really well. Again, it plays in about 5 minutes, so you can play snappily again and again and again. Really easy to explain, because if you know 20 questions, then you can play Insider. It comes in a nice compact little box by Oink Games, and it is what it is really. Pleasant game, gets my shield of quality. I played this game probably again 40 plus times, and I still play it anytime because it's so quick and easy to play. Next up, I have Sheriff of Nottingham. Now for me, this is a borderline party game. It takes a bit longer than your average party game, but it still plays, I think, 5 or 6 players if you have the expansion. It's basically a bluffing game, as each round there's going to be a sheriff, and everybody else is going to get given a number of cards, and you are choosing to put cards into a bag, and those cards are going to be things such as apples or chickens or cheese, and you are declaring a certain amount of cards in the bag and declaring them to the sheriff, and the sheriff is either going to choose to believe you and let them get past him, or he's going to try and search your bag, and if he catches you putting things in your bag that you didn't declare, then you're going to have to pay a fee to him. But if he searched you and you were honest, then he has to pay a fine to you for wasting your time. So you've got that idea of bluffing and double bluffing. You can pay people to search each other's bags, and you've got that extra element of having contraband, which are really valuable if you sneak them past the sheriff without being caught. A real fun game. Being the sheriff is fun, but also sneaking them past the sheriff is fun. If you don't like lying, it's still a good game to play, because the lies are very light, and they aren't like very, they're not ultra deceptive. But the game is just fun. It's extremely welcoming, easy to play, very family friendly, but it still has some great moments, some great social interaction. Maybe slightly more player dependent than a lot of party games, but it still works extremely well. So yeah, a game that's been very successful over the years. I think it's been out probably coming up to 10 years now. But yeah, it's always been a hit for me. My game group really like it. Maybe I'm starting to get a little bit tired on it, but I can certainly see why it's so enjoyable. It's quick, and again, both roles is fun, and just that pure calling a bluff and double bluffing and stuff just really does shine through with Sheriff of Nottingham. Next up, I have A Fake Artist Goes to New York. Now this is another Oink game that comes in those tiny little boxes. This one is another game where you've got that undercover character, that snake in the grass. But this one puts a real slant on it, because you are actually communally drawing a picture together. So everybody is going to know what you're drawing apart from one player, the fake artist. And then player by player, you are going to end up drawing a line, or contributing a line to that drawing. And when it comes to the fake artist, they've got to do it without knowing what actually you're trying to draw together. And it can create some extremely funny moments as, you know, everybody is maybe drawing, you know, a football, and then when it comes to the fake artist, they end up drawing a smiley face on it or something because they thought it was a head. It's that kind of thing. It's a lot of fun, and yeah, it can be over extremely quickly, but that's part of the fun, really. And if you do end up winging it and actually getting away with being the fake artist, it can be quite rewarding, because if you're not the fake artist, you still got to be vague enough so that the artist doesn't intercept and realise what you're drawing. But you've got to be accurate enough that the other players kind of cotton on to what you're doing and say, you know, and be sure that you're not the fake artist. And striking that balance can be really difficult. A lot of fun. I suppose you don't really need the game to play it, because you can just play it with a bit of paper. But nonetheless, it's a good game, and I do enjoy it. And finally, the last game I'm going to talk about this episode is Artbox, or #Artbox. This one is certainly a unique concept, as you are given a bunch of words. Everybody's given a clue card. A bunch of dice are rolled depicting different shapes. So in each dice face, you've got like circles, triangles, or lines. And the idea is that you are only allowed to use those shapes you've rolled to draw the word that you've been given. And that can be extremely difficult. You know, if you need to draw an elephant with 3 circles, that can be quite hard, as you can probably imagine. But after everyone's drawn their pictures, you're putting them out there in an open forum, putting all the words that they could be out there, plus a few more, and everybody is voting on what they think each picture is, and then you get points accordingly. Novel concept, instead. It went down quite well for me over the Christmas period, but I think in terms of longevity, this game doesn't hold up. I think there isn't a whole wide range of words that come with the game. It would be nice to have a bigger deck there, but also you can actually get quite good at this game quite quickly and start to decipher what people are going for with repeated plays. So I don't think it holds up terribly well. The novelty factor does wear thin quite quickly, so I think the shelf life is short with this one. However, that initial reaction and the initial fun is quite strong. So if you want something for maybe a one-off occasion, as I said, for a Christmas or something, just to burn a few hours, then I would recommend Artbox. But if you want a staple of your game collection and, you know, something that's going to stick around for repeated plays and hold a covenant place on your gaming library, then I don't think Artbox is the one to go for, unfortunately. So again, I appreciate the fresh and innovative idea, but it didn't quite stand up to scrutiny and to repeated plays. So that concludes my 10 party game reviews. I hope there's something on here that's piqued your interest, and I hope that these shorter, concise reviews give at least a good impression about what the game is about. So if you have enjoyed the video, please hit like and subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos too. And for everyone else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye.